On this episode of History in Lowell, we'll be talking about the monuments that honor immigrant groups that have come to our city. Hello, welcome to History in Lowell. My name is Maritza Grooms. I'm joined by my personal professor and TV dad, Bob Forrant. How's it going, Bob?
It's going really, really well. The semester has ended.
Glorious day.
I still have 10 papers to grade, but that's okay.
Yeah, we're going to keep you working, though,
Yeah.
for as long as we can.
As long as I'm upright.
And one of the things that you've been working on is some research. You've had some students working on some research that impacts exactly what we're talking about today, some monuments that are existing in our beautiful home that can sometimes be wonderful and sometimes be a little silly, but
Yes.
This is one of those wonderful things.
I've been fascinated for a long time by the fact that you have over a dozen of these markers around in front of City Hall. There are a number of them that are about war or the end of World War II, or there's military hardware. There's one sitting directly in front of City Hall that marks the first two casualties of the Civil War.
The Lad Whitney.
But amidst all of the, right, Lad and Whitney, right. But amidst all of those things, there are over a dozen monuments, markers, memorials to immigrants and or refugees who have made Lowell their home. And it's really quite unique. I started trying to figure out, is there any such a concentration like this anywhere else in the country? I have not turned one up yet, and I'm never going to be bold enough to say, this is the only place, right? That would be foolish, because then we'll get something from North Dakota, that around Bismarck City Hall, they have, you know, whatever. But it is, I don't know any other place in Massachusetts, and I've visited and done things in a lot of cities in Massachusetts.
So fairly unique to us.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you can have a community where there might be different ones scattered around, but to have them all, and I think there is some significance that they're all in front of City Hall.
Yeah.
That when the communities wanted the markers, they wanted them in the for the community, the seat of power.
Yes.
And so it's pretty fantastic.
And it reminds me of something we've talked about on previous episodes, where when immigrant groups come in and they get settled, and then maybe like a generation or two, they often either join or become part of the local government, part of that leadership. So to have these monuments reflect that as well seems like it bolsters that. But there are some groups who haven't been represented on city council that are represented in these monuments.
Right.
And I think that we try our best on this show to really highlight and uplift them. But you know, you might be walking around in front of City Hall and not even realize or stop to look at some of these things. So let's talk about it. What prompted you to do this research?
Well, I'm teaching immigration history this semester, so even though I'm officially retired, I'm not.
No, we're going to keep you working, Bob.
Right. And I wanted to, each time I teach it, I want to have the students do some hands-on, like what does a historian do?
Yeah, experiential learning at its finest.
And usually I'm selfish, and it's like, it's a project I'm starting to work on, and now I have 18 students getting credit, so that at the end of the semester, they've all turned me in the research that they did, and we can talk about that. And then I'm going to take all of it, compile it, sort of rewrite it and package it better. Everybody did something unique in the way they did their work. That was fine by me. And they collected images and documents, and they did some of them did some really amazing digging and finding. And then I'm going to give to the city and to the Lowell Historic Board and the Pollard a document that here's the history in one place. And so there are bits and pieces of the history scattered around. There's some stuff in the Pollard Library. There's some stuff that the Historic Commission has. There's some stuff that's in the Center for Lowell History. But it's incomplete, and it's not all gathered in some way where somebody couldn't, like, a visitor couldn't come to Lowell and say, I want to, like, do a self-guided walk around all these markers. Well, by the end of 2026, you will be able to.
Yes. I'm
And all of my
excited.
students will have their names on it.
And, you know, as somebody who loves to walk around Lowell, and when I'm walking around, I'm always looking through a lens of what was here before. That really is making me so excited. You always give so much to Lowell, and we probably don't deserve you. But so you had 18 students working on this,
Right.
and how many memorials are there? How many monuments?
So there are over a dozen, and they didn't do all of them. We ended up doing, so I gave them the entire list, and then I basically said, you can decide what one you want to do. Email me your top 2 choices, and then I made little groups. And so not everything got done. So there's still more. The Colombian one, that's the most recent one, was not done, although I have emails and everything from the people who did that one, so I'm ready to go with them this summer. The Laotian one, I think, was another one that didn't get done, but Cambodian one, I mean, the list is here. So my class did Franco-American marker, the Irish memorial, Polish, Greek, Italian, Portuguese, Armenian, Khmer Rouge, they didn't do the Laotian monument, and they didn't do the Colombian. So,
Wow.
So they worked in groups of 2 or 3. The only one in the area that is about a business is there's a marker to the first market basket. There's a marker to the first demoulas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's tucked away.
Wow.
It's tucked away over by the Whistler House Museum.
Wow.
And I've always known it was there. So 2 of my students did that one.
Because that's where the original
It's
location
the first
was.
store. It's the location
right in
of
that
where the
parking lot, right? Yeah.
Yes. And so there's a marker right there. And so they did the marker. They did some amazing research. The founder of the store, they found his citizenship petition.
Get out of here.
I have a photocopy of it. Yeah.
That is so
I mean,
cool.
the stuff that they were able to get from people, and also now, the other hope I had was that by them contacting people, if anybody had documents about like the fundraising that went on or events that were held to raise money to install the monument, whatever it would be, that they would let the Center for Lowell History scan all those things so they could hang on to the originals if they wanted, but again, there would be an archive.
Wow.
And so that's all happening too. So the thing that I like about teaching is like coming up with some crazy idea and then actually it worked.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, oh yeah, this actually turned out pretty well.
And it's going to have lasting impact. That'll be, now that those documents are scanned in, it's there.
It'll be there.
There is a record.
Yes.
And we talk about this so much when we're studying and researching, that if it wasn't for that one person who made sure that there was a record somewhere that we could find, we wouldn't know about some
Right.
of these things.
And in almost every case, it was a single person or maybe 2 or 3 people from a particular community.
Wow.
Like the Franco-American community or the Greek community or the Portuguese community who said we need a marker. Maria Cunha, who you know, I'm sure,
Yes.
right? And I've known for a long time, she was one of the initiators of the Portuguese marker.
Of course she was.
And she actually went to City Hall to ask about it and pointed out the plot that she wanted it to be on. She picked out the site.
I love that.
In the land, because it's like very adjacent to the steps going up City Hall. I talked to people, Steve Stoll and some people on the Historic Board and the Historic Commission. Up until recently, there was no rhyme, no reason about how anything got there.
It's just somebody like Maria Cunha saying, hey, we want this, now do this for us. But the process might have changed over time.
And there wasn't a like standardization of like how big it could be or anything like that, or what it should look like. Now there's this document, the City of Lowell Working Monuments Guidelines.
Wow.
Which is a very official, and so now if you want to do it, you go and then you have to present to this commission, and there's questions in the guidelines they want you to answer to justify why there should be a marker there, and you have to raise a certain amount of money and get insurance, and it's much more. But the first ones that I could find, again, based on the student work, there actually was one in 1918
Wow.
that was put up to Cardinal O'Connell. There's Cardinal O'Connell Way,
Yeah.
sort of diagonally outside City Hall across from the library.
Right.
Cardinal O'Connell was born in Lowell and was like the Irish cardinal in the Archdiocese of Boston. And in 1918, they basically erected this statue for him in that green space and called it Cardinal O'Connell Way. Wow. So that's 1918. And that one is interesting because they inaugurated like 6 days after the end of World War I. So World War I is November 11, and the ceremony to install that, is November 17,
wow.
1918. And it's interesting because it's in the middle of the flu.
Yes.
People are dropping dead in Lowell from the flu.
Oh my God.
But the newspaper accounts say there were 30,000 people.
And of course, I wonder. We did an episode on this. I wonder if people were masking.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, there was a spike in flu deaths in Lowell after. I did not know this until the students did the research that it was installed on the 18th of November.
Wow.
But then it made me think even more because there's definitely like these spikes in flu deaths after November 11 because there are these iconic photographs in front of City Hall when World War I ends, and there's thousands of people out in front of City Hall celebrating.
Super spreader events.
Yeah, exactly. And then 6 days later, there's another one.
Golly.
And it was sort of like, I said, whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the very first one.
So not only are we doing research about the monuments, but a little bit of forensics.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, that's like what their research opens the door. Many of them are connected in some way to, like Jim Ilanazzo's the mayor at the time of the Armenian one, and people go to him and say they want to do this, and he helps make that happen, right? There are different mayors at different points in the city's history that are very engaged and very involved. Rodney Elliott is very involved in raising the money for the Cambodian marker. In front of City Hall.
I can't say that surprises me.
Yeah, he is one of the main people that coordinates raising the money, and that's quite expensive. I mean, the other thing that you can see, like where my students could find out, it's like the first one. So one of the first ones, sort of after that one, back in 1918. There's a French Canadian one in 1974.
Wow.
And that costs about $5,000. And they had to raise over 40 grand for the Cambodian one. And so the prices are escalating over time.
Yeah.
Almost all the designers, I'm not going to look through my notes, I'm not going to remember all the names, but almost every one of the designers is from Lowell.
Good, as they should be.
With one exception. The Italian one is done by Miko Kaufman, who's a very famous, sculptor, designer, and he does the one on women that's on Market Street,
right? Yes.
Right by the park. And so he actually also has a piece on the university campus near the music school. So he's a pretty impressive person.
Yeah.
He does the Italian one, but almost all the other ones are designed locally.
Good. And we always say art is the handmaid of human good.
Yeah, right.
Lowell,
it makes sense in Lowell, right? But that's not. It's funny because when you go to the markers, there really again isn't any info on like this is who designed it.
Oh.
Right, or things like that. And so again, what I'm hoping for is that this then gives due to the artists who did and each of them has different wording on it depending. And so I was curious. One of the things I wanted my students to figure out if they could is who picked out the words. Yeah,
who picked out the words? Who picked out the designs? How did they decide what they wanted on the monument?
Yep.
You were telling me an interesting story about one of them.
Yeah, so the Cambodian marker, I had 3 students working on that one, and they divided up the work that they did, and one of the students was interested in the design. And I knew the name of the person. Yari Levin is the person who was, a trained like master sculptor artist from Cambodia, and who was able to flee the Khmer Rouge and survive, and has a studio at Western Avenue, galleries in Lowell, and does all kinds of stuff in Lowell. And I believe somebody told me he's actually going to be teaching a course at UMass Lowell in the fall. But anyway, cool. She contacted him and he invited her on a Saturday morning to come visit him in his studio. And he showed her all the original designs.
Oh my God.
And like his sketches and everything. as he was in his brain trying to figure it out. And the whole concept came from a photograph, and he had the photograph. And then she scanned the photograph and sent me the photograph. And so hopefully now I'm persuading you all out there in TV land, go look at the markers. If you go and look at the Cambodian one, it depicts a woman who obviously is in distress, fleeing the genocide, and she has bags over her shoulders and she's tugging along 2 children. And that's the photograph, right? That then he uses to make the design. And it's not like an imaginary thing. It's a real news photograph of people fleeing.
So
and I didn't,
true monument.
Yeah, and I had no, I mean, again, sort of like the power of research, right? When she started telling me, I said, oh my God.
I would never have guessed that that's like,
Nope.
it's like, yeah, this captures the moment that they were going through, that this group was fleeing this terrible genocide, but you don't ever stop to think that's a real person
Right.
in that monument.
Right. And also think about what it meant for him to be doing it, since he was one of the, like last surviving, like classically trained, in the tradition, ceramicist, sculptor, artist, and that he ended up doing that work. And that she's a young Cambodian American herself.
Wow.
So she's sitting there with him. What can be better for a teacher? That like I made that connection for them, right? It's
I just got chills.
oh no, I was blown away.
Wow. Were there any other things that came up that were surprising things that you all learned through this process?
The research on the Franco-American ones, on that one in particular, the people involved found an old iconic school bell, like a big bell, right? And from, probably from a school in Little Canada, and anyway, that became the part of, they had a base, and then that became the marker. And they found that it was in the attic in City Hall.
Wow.
And they found it and said they wanted to use it. And then as the story unfolds and the research my students did, people in the community actually dig the hole to pour the base in the ground. They do it themselves to then drop the bell, which weighs several tons,
Oh my goodness.
onto the stone.
And that's another one of the earlier ones, right?
Yeah, that's 1974.
Wow.
And then shortly thereafter, there are 2. In 1977, there's an Irish one and a Polish one. And the Polish one, interesting story, when the Polish one comes out, a Polish sort of iconic symbol is like an eagle, kind of a artistic expression. I think maybe it's a falcon, but it's some kind of bird of prey anyway.
Right.
And it goes on the marker. And several years later, after the Berlin Wall falls and the Soviet Union falls apart and Poland becomes no longer in the Soviet orbit, they go back to the monument and they put a king's crown on the head of the eagle, of the bird.
Wow.
And so found that out, right?
Wow.
And so I have photographs that they found of before and after.
Oh my
No crown. And I never knew. I mean, I've gone and looked at it, and you can see the crown. It's obvious,
Yeah.
right? But I had no idea. Well, okay, what's the backstory? So that was cool. Where the Greek marker is, the Greek marker is in Cardinal O'Connell Way in that greenery, and the community that did that marker was affiliated mainly with the Greek church right around the corner, across from St. Patrick's. And they made a determination, when you look at it, all the writing and everything on it is facing what was the Greek acre.
Oh my goodness.
It doesn't face in towards City Hall. The back of the marker faces City Hall. The words, the dedication, everything about it faces out into the community, and that was intentional.
Wow. This is for the Greek triangle. This is
Yeah,
for us.
exactly.
Wow.
And so that's really neat, because at the other end, so there's the Cardinal O'Connell big obelisk giant thing that dominates that space, and then there's the Irish marker at one end that sort of faces that way into the kind of like the Irish acre, and so they're basically not facing each other. And it's really kind of cool. And I always knew it, but I never knew what the backstory was.
Yeah.
And so now I know.
And then the way those churches are facing each other too, that really, this is what I mean. It makes you look at the place that you're in differently.
Yeah, the Armenian monument has this really interesting architecture to it. There are folded hands on it that kind of, and the folded hands come away from the flat of the stone.
Ooh.
And so the backstory for that one is, so that's the Armenian genocide. That one gets there in 2014. And it's inaugurated, installed, like the public event it's here, is on Mother's Day, 2014. And the hands are to represent women, mothers, sort of basically holding things together.
Wow. Wow. And don't they?
They hold up more than half the sky.
Right.
But again, it's like, okay, you can walk through there and see that. No idea.
Wow. But you and your students are doing this incredibly important work. And then not only now, almost 200 years later, do we have a guideline for how to do this, right? But we're going to actually have some basis of a historical guide so that people like me who are kind of nerdy and want to just go learn what these monuments actually mean and the backstory on them will be able to actually learn and walk around these places, because you don't think about it. You just see this beautiful monument and maybe you oh, okay, that's what that's for, but you don't think about what was going on at the time, that the monument itself was installed, what was going on with the people, why the people decided we want this right now, and the arts, the backstory of the art behind it. This is incredible. Kudos to you and your students, Bob. This is amazing.
This is what one of my students wrote about the group for the Franco-American one. The bell at the heart of the monument has its own remarkable origin story. According to Curtis LeMay is the person who is most engaged and involved, and he's a mayor for a while in the city as well. He spotted a large school bell sitting in the attic of a municipal building. He arranged to have it sold to the Franco-American community for $1, then had a monument designed around it and secured formal permission from the Lowell City Council to place it on the front lawn. And then they dig the hole for the base.
Wow. Well, you did mention, I don't think we talked about it on the show, but this is because we have just enough time, I think, to talk about the Columbian monument and how that's actually different from all the other monuments.
Yeah, so the Columbian one is the newest one, and it was one of the first ones that came in with the guidelines. And it's so in the 70s and 80s, the Colombian community grows in the city of Lowell because people are essentially recruited to come to Lowell and work in this attempt to restart some version of the textile industry in Lowell. And in the Suffolk Mill, which these days is called the Wanalancet Mill in Lowell, right off the downtown. And first groups of people came, and actually the owners of the factory created a dormitory on the top floor.
Wow.
Above the factory, and workers lived there and then moved over into the acre. And so this is a monument this is called the Columbian Workforce Monument.
Wow.
And when you look at it, and again, I didn't know the backstory, but somebody involved in it emailed me and gave me heard I was doing this and gave me a bunch of information. It was really designed to reflect and honor, in a way, those first pioneering workers from Colombia who came to the city, mainly from Medellin, to work in the Wanalancet Suffolk textile mill. And it kind of looks like a textile machine, like a loom, and there are spindles that go across it, and they're all in color. And so it's the only one. Well, the Cambodian one is sort of kind of an orangey, sandish color, but the rest of them are very sort of traditional kind of granite, grayish stone, right? This one is splashed with color. And so it's really interesting to look at it. Once this can get published in some way, people can look at those in a really different light. Because in each instance, they were self-financed by the community. In some cases, they did fundraisers, and people outside the immediate, like, you know, you didn't have to be French-Canadian to donate to that one,
Right.
or Greek to donate to the Greek one, but by and large, community organization within that community took the lead in raising the money and doing fundraisers, and, you know, a lot of cases like bake sales, dances, you know, things like that, that obviously just pitches for people to donate money, lots of raffles.
Of course.
Very grassroots. And the city did not put money up. From what I can see, what the city contribution was yes, you can use this space, and we're sort of ceding to you the ground that you're going to put it on. So I think it's reflective of people sort of venerating in a way their ancestors, that they felt we're going to do the work, we're going to raise the money, we're going to find a designer, we're going to pick a designer. I mean, there are recent groups, like the most recent over the last several years, that, you know, probably don't have something yet. There's an African marker that's over by the Songus Arena. It has a Nelson Mandela quote on it, and it kind of looks out over the river.
I don't think I've seen that.
Gordon Hom and other people were
course.
involved in doing that
Yeah.
several years ago, but that's not in the downtown proper in that area. So there's not one to the African diaspora
Yeah.
in the context in close to City Hall. There are other things in Cambodia Town, and, you know, there are things around the city in different places. But I do think there's something important about the fact that they're there in front of City Hall. That's a conversation I had with my students. Like, why not have it in the old neighborhood?
Right.
Right? And so we spent a lot of time talking about that and historical memory, what gets remembered, what doesn't, and why. And there's a book by Martha Norkunis, who came to Lowell several years ago and did a book called Monuments and Memories about Lowell. And she did some work on the monuments, and so my students used some of what was in her book, and all the notes and research she did, she left at the Center for Lowell History.
Good.
And she was looking at everything, all the little signs in different squares all over Lowell that remember people who died in a war and things like that. She was looking at all of that, and also looking at what isn't there. Right, as well as looking at these things. And so her research was invaluable in terms of...
Well, her research, yours and your students, all invaluable, and now will be documented for all of us who want to go look at those things for eternity and more. So if you're like me, please go check out those monuments. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching History in Lowell.